Hi guys, and welcome back to another video. Behind me we have our Verde Mantis F80 M3, which a lot of you will be familiar with. We've owned this car since new in 2017 and we've done all the development we wanted to do on it. Now the question is, do we keep it or do we sell it?
Call me Bucky, lucky that I'm innocent. If I didn't have no morals, I'd be menacing. How about rapping conscious but he ignorant? How he from the hood but still gon' go legitimate? How he fuck a bunch of but they still respect the women. He still rolling in Sonata, he just got the windows tinted. Homie stabbed me in the back and that can never be forgiven. And my palms been itching, man, I like the superstition.
Most of you are familiar with this car. There is a playlist of all the modifications that we have done on it, but we're going to go through it quickly in this video before I go out for a drive and discuss whether we're going to keep it or not. So this car is visually stunning, but for me the business end of it is the engine and the power it makes. So we've got this car to 650 horsepower on pump fuel, and we've done that without using any methanol or any race fuel. So the way we've done that is it runs Mosselmann hybrid turbos, an RK billet crank hub fix, M5 injectors from the F80 M3, Venturi charge pipes, Venturi intake, Mosselmann oil thermostat housing, a CSF external radiator, evolved downpipes, and an evolved titanium exhaust, and that runs with an evolved custom tune. So this car does around 5.4 seconds, 100-200 on just pump fuel that you can get from V-Power or Esso. Above the engine we can see one of the first visual mods, which is an OEM GTS or CS bonnet, and that is in carbon fiber and then it's painted body color from outside. So visually it adds a lot to the car, but it also helps with the performance because it keeps engine bay temperatures quite low, which we did notice at VMAX. So I'm going to run over the exterior modification of this car quickly. It has a full Evero kit which we designed ourselves, so it's got the front lip and what we call the fangs. It has the 660 design Shuriken wheels, which again I was involved in the design process. Currently the suspension setup is our Evolve Bilstein EDC dampers with H&R springs. We do normally run this on MSS springs, but we wanted to show people what the different ride heights were with various springs with the dampers, so we just put these on to take some pictures. Coming around to the side of the car, we have the RKP side skirts, and the rear of the car is finished with an Evero boot lip spoiler, M Performance lights, a 3-piece diffuser, and you can see the tailpipes of the Evolved titanium exhaust, which have carbon trims. So this car is very much led visually by the design of the F80 in the first place, which is a beautiful design. I think didn't have any controversy around this when it came out like the G series did. But it always looked like there was something missing from the car. It's almost like BMW designed this car to have a body kit on it and then they set it out into the world without it. And that's why so many people bought the M Performance kit, which does work really well, but we wanted to do something different. The color is also very striking. Individual colors are great on these cars, and I really like the Verde Mantis. I think at the time of order it was around a £4,000 option, but it's well worth it because it's actually retained that in the value of the car. Stepping inside the car, we've kept it fairly simple. It has black leather interior, carbon trims, and the only bits we've added are the Evolve paddles, which function a lot better than the stock ones and look really good. And also the seat backs are in carbon fiber, but not just any ordinary carbon fiber. We had them finished in a custom green to complement the car. The car also has a state-of-the-art Pandora security system, which I'd recommend to anyone with a BMW, especially this generation, because a lot of them were getting stolen. As good as the car looks, they are meant to be driven. So let's take it out on the road and see what it's all about. The journey with this car began after our signal green F80 M3 was tragically written off at 2,000 miles. Not by me, I might add, but the driver was okay. The car wasn't. The car had just been built, finished to that first specification we were going for, and just come from the detailer, and it was essentially lost control of and hit a tree. Now those early cars, the 2016 ones, they were quite sketchy in terms of their power delivery. They had huge torque spikes low down, which we did demonstrate on various dyno graphs. The car started to have software updates, and they were made a little tamer in terms of the power delivery, which meant that people weren't losing control of them as much. So I didn't really have time to gel with that car. This one we bought in 2017, have owned it from new, now done 14,000 miles, so in a good place to talk about long-term ownership and the modifications that we've made to this particular car. Now the F80 M3 for me kind of falls in between the M2 and the F90 M5, and that's quite a difficult place to be, because for the fun stuff I would always use the M2. I wouldn't pick the keys up for this, and then for the long distance stuff with my family I would always pick the F90 M5, or even before that the F10 M5. So this kind of fell in the middle, and that's reflected by the amount of mileage we've done. Only 14,000. I've done 20,000 in the M2 and 22,000 in the F90 M5, which goes to show you that this was the last car I would pick up the keys to go for a drive. But what I will say is, it is a car that I think people buy when they've got one car. So it's a one car all-rounder. You know, it's got 4 doors, it's got 4 seats. The F82 has 4 seats as well, and you know, you can use it with your family if you want to, and it looks great. The design of this car is amazing. The G82 is very controversial. This was not controversial at all. People loved it straight away, and with a few additions it just looks amazing. And in standard form, this is a competition pack. It was an improvement over the non-competition pack car, especially in terms of the ride, but I never really found this handled as well as the M2. The M2 for me embodies what M is more than this car, and it feels more like the spirit of an E46 M3 to me, whereas this kind of felt lost in the middle, trying to do too many things at the same time. That being said, over the course of the years we have modified the car quite a lot. I'll come to the power in a minute. It has 650 horsepower. It's not very usable on the road without losing your license, so we have used that power going to VMAX events, and it's very useful obviously for overtaking. The car's not slow anyway, but you know, us guys that like cars and modifying them, we just want to push the boundaries and go that little bit faster than everyone else. But I'll say that the thing that made the most difference to this car, and I actually felt like it was super fun driving it like the M2, is the Bilstein suspension we developed with Bilstein, our own EDC dampers in combination with the MSS springs. That really changed the handling dynamics of this car, made it ride really nicely over B roads, kept it really flat through the corners, gave it extra grip that it needed with the extra power. And it's only at this stage now, when we're ready to move on from it, that I'm like, I've actually made the perfect F80 M3 for me. And a lot of people have said, are you keeping this car long term? And one of the main reasons for that is that we've had our M2 from new. I've made that exactly how I wanted to make it, and I'll be honest with you, I don't ever want to sell that car if I can help it. I've joked with people and said that if I need to start liquidating assets, that will be the last asset that I will sell, because it means that much to me, and the fact that I enjoy driving it a huge amount. I've done 3 European road trips in it. I've been to Wales in it a number of times on driving trips with my friends, and it's just a joy to drive on B roads. It is literally made for those roads, and as I said, this car is a kind of a compromise. It's at a level now where on B roads I'm really happy with it, but for me I would still pick the M2 over this car in terms of driving fun. So you can see the power delivery is quite hilarious with this much power. Obviously when we were racing at VMAX, we would change the tyres and go for an R888R just to give us more grip. One of the main things about this car that is a negative, I would say, is the sound. The S55 engine doesn't sound great. With the addition of the Venturi intake and the charge pipes, you do get a lot more turbo spool coming through, which is fun. And with the titanium exhaust, if you watch back through the videos, when it was just the exhaust and the stock downpipes, actually sounded pretty good. But when you add the downpipes, you get the true unequal nature of the exhaust. Now, a lot of people have remedied that slightly with equal length mid pipes, but I would say it still doesn't sound as good as the N55 for me. I think the N55 sounds amazing for a turbocharged car, and I really like the sound of the Super Sprint on our F87 M2. With the suspension, in terms of the handling, these dampers have just made such a big difference. You've seen me drive on those S's a number of times, and before, the car didn't really give me that much confidence through those corners, but now it's just so flat and compliant. I'm actually starting to enjoy it a lot more. With that all being said, I have to decide whether this car is going to stay or not. So let's head back to the unit and have that discussion. So those are my thoughts on the F80 M3. I didn't fall in love with it in the first place, but once we've made our changes, I am liking it a lot more now, and it's taken 5 years to get to that stage. The problem with keeping this car is over here. I'm in a very unique position to have both of them. They're both company development vehicles, and we are now going to be concentrating on the G82 M4. But that car is just so much better than this one out of the box, and even with all the modifications this has, you wouldn't pick this one over that one, apart from if you were looking purely at looks and you didn't like the new G series. This car as an all-rounder is amazing. So you know, I was talking about earlier, a one car that does it all. This bridges the gap between the fun on the M2 and the luxury and the comfort of the F90 M5. So with this in place and us moving forward with this, I don't think there's going to be a place for this in our garage long term. Now, a lot of you will say, well, you've kept the M2. Yes, I have, but I connected with that car and I still love driving it. This one, I didn't have that connection, so I think it's time for this one to go. With that being done and said, the car is going to be stripped back to standard next week on Monday and Tuesday. So if anyone's interested in buying the car as it is, please get in contact with us over the weekend. Otherwise, it will be completely stripped back to stock next week. If that happens, all the parts that we've talked about will be listed for sale. So if you're interested in any of those, please get in touch. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you liked the video, please remember to smash that like button. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel. If you want to join the conversation, please drop a comment below and we'll try our best to respond to you. If you want to watch more of this project, you can do so over here. If you want to watch what YouTube thinks you might like from our other content, you can do so over here.